Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Alana James, and it's the first 15-minute research boost for our new year, 2021. So welcome to everybody, and I'm delighted to see all the people who are either here in the room or watching by recording, getting to work in a positive way so straight on in the year. It's a good recommendation for what kind of a great year it's going to be to all of you. So this is our 15-minute research boost. If you haven't been to these before, today I'm discussing building your own publication rubric, and I'll show you one that I have going in that's going to support my writing and publication this year. That's just a quick conversation, and then we have a Woo Clap. You can go to www.wooclap.com/15 minutes, and you can ask questions. So let me just real quick type that in the sticky note here in case anybody hasn't done that before. wooclap.com/15 minutes. And we just start on questions and keep answering them until they're finished. So what's our agenda for today? I'm going to discuss publication rubric. Why have one? I'm going to give you a template. This template is in the handouts. Let me just make sure it published. Looks like it did. There's a PowerPoint in the handouts for you so that you can use it, revise it, make it your own. I'll show you what happened when I used the tool for my work. It's partially done, and then we'll ask questions. So that's our day today. And once again, I'm so glad you're here. Publication rubric. Why have one? Well, the simple thing is this picture actually says it all. If you have a rubric, it's like having the line that the dart is floating on. You have done your work. You have looked at where you want your publication to be from the eyes of the editor and the reader. That's the important part. You are so much more likely to hit the bullseye easily if you do the prep work that this rubric requires. So here's the template. First page, and this actually you can duplicate and make lots of pages. You want to consider your reader. Your writing, even though you're sending it into a publication, has all kinds of readers. You and your work, if you want to advance your work, you have a few readers in mind, generally 2 or 3, who come from slightly different angles about what they know about, but to whom your work will be significant. And so you want to attract them, and that means you should consider them when you write. And so most important is their role. And then that's kind of how, instead of a name, you have a role. And then what they don't know that you want them to understand. What parts of your results and findings will they find interesting? And the claim that you're going to make that is particularly appropriate to them and their ideas. I'll show you how that works when it was mine. Now, any of you who've heard me talk about writing and publication before have heard me talk about the funnel. Your background, your lit, your methods, your results, your finding, all funnel your reader into the claim you are making. So it's good to keep that in mind as we first look at our reader, then we look at our funnel. How are we going to funnel those readers in to where we want them to go? And then I put in 2 tables that you can expand and make them work for you. The one is looking at models from most likely from the publication that you're writing for, that have some variety to them, and you tear apart what you're seeing and you lay it out side by side, and that gives you lots of ideas. Again, I'll show you what happened when I did it. And then the second page, looks like the same thing, except that it's a goal for your writing what would be second place, and what is a keep working. So this is a rubric. And if you're not in a field that uses rubrics, I'm an educator, so rubrics are common in my field. You would have, this is where I absolutely want to be, but this is something that it is kind of a stepping stone to that. And then there's where you are when you're just not good enough. They're very useful for assessing work. So you can assess your own work, but you can also, when you're done, show somebody, and this is what I'm intending to do. I'm going to give an article from the publication I'm writing for to my editor, personal editor, and then I'm going to show her how I'm going to give her this. I'm going to have her read mine against this and see where she thinks I am. And then we can have conversation about what is needed. Maybe it's the kind of work she does, and maybe it's the kind of work I need to do before I give it to her. So this is a talking document for my editor, and I wouldn't send a publication without it being edited. So where does, oh, I didn't change the title. This next one is my work. So I have 3 roles that I'm considering for mine, just to show you how these work out. So let's talk about the one you're most familiar with. So I write, as you know, I do research on this work that you're part of, and specifically, I'm going to write about the boot camps that happened last summer. So I'm one of the people I hope reads my article are deans or other people in graduate schools. Now, this is when these questions become really interesting. What don't they know that I want them to understand? Well, these people know a lot about professional development, and they know a lot about why you go to professional development. They don't know very much about the research as it stands on online learning. They don't know very much about redundancies of tools being essential, because that's a major finding if you look at the online lit and other kinds of lit findings. So the lit review that I've been doing informs these people about research they know nothing about. So lit review is going to be important in my article. What are the results or findings they're going to find interesting would be the student outcomes and the design and what students said about that design. And then the claim that I'm making from their point of view, because even though it's one claim I'm crafting, I want it to hit home for 3 different points of view. So I need to consider what that claim looks like per each person. And then I'll do a better job at moving them together. So the claim is that professional development needs to tie in research on online education and why and how and then the outcomes we had, why and how they played out, and the tie to what we know about online education. Another role are for those who are just interested in internet learning. They're not really ever going to be a customer of ours or even a colleague, but they live in the same arena. We'll meet them at conferences, that kind of thing. And they may know a lot about online education, but they may not know anything about the fact that master's and doctoral work tends to have a 50% completion rate, that we're trying to figure out how to use these tools to help. They may also not be familiar with boot camps except in their own experience. So the tradition of boot camps and the development of professional development may be new to them. And the outcome, part of this that will be interesting are the outcomes we had from the different groups we measured, because this will be a comparative study, and why they were different. So there's some educational learning to be said there, regardless of whether you're in our field, if you're interested in internet learning. And then the claim will be that because the attendees came from so many different levels of whenever I do anything, you all are at many different parts, as you know from coming. Some of you are just starting, some of you have a good handle on it, etc. But when you try to do something intense and you have a wide um, uh, comparative group, then how do you do that? Well, we found the need for the gaps to be filled by other work we had previously done. So the outcome, the claim is, you better have a lot of stuff to back you up if you want to be completely successful. And then directors of research will also hopefully find this interesting because they're the ones who are responsible for helping doctoral students get their research done. So they hopefully will be interested in something that took some people who were struggling past struggling, but they might not know much about the research and online learning. They're probably very interested in research. It's probably a intense, difficult, rigorous audience to write to. And so I'll have to be very careful in my language and the research that this was based on and the outcomes. It's a little daunting to me, actually, to take this one on, but I think it's very important. And one of the claims that I think everyone in higher education should take into account is that if we can do a better job of keeping accountability going over the summer, students will have greater success. Okay, so that's what happened when I looked at who. Now, I haven't put together all the parts based on that because I'm only about half done with my analysis of the models. So I have 3 models. One you'll see is mostly missing because it's from the journal that I want to write for, but I don't have a copy of it yet. I just like the abstract and I think it'll be a good model for me. But I did tear apart 2, one that was written for the journal that I'm writing for and one that was written for the one I would consider a runner-up, which actually I have to say after this analysis is looking more like it might be the one I end up writing for. So as you dig into previous work that's been published, then for me anyway, the questions surface. Is this a journal that writes in a language that's similar to my voice? Is this a journal that publishes methodology that is close to mine? Which may take some digging because it may be that you pull up empirical studies right away, but they also do publish other kinds of work. So that's one of the questions that came up. This particular journal has recently moved to a scientific numbering the headings and then 1.1.1, 1.1.2, that kind of a setup for headings. I think to upgrade the look and feel to the more scientific viewpoint. So, and they're not doing background separate from lit. They're calling it background, but in fact, it is lit that they're really using, or at least in the one that I tore apart. So that's why those 2 were merged in that one. These are the kinds of things you figure out before you're writing by comparing someone else's work, someone else's work. And the deeper you dig into their work, the more you try to think about how they did it, why they did it that way, where is, for instance, results, and where does the claim go? Where is the claim showing up? In one of these, for instance, the claim actually is one of the subheadings under discussion, just a subheading under discussion. It's mentioned in the abstract. It's a subheading under discussion, and then it's referred to in the conclusions. So and that'll differ one to one. So you're watching then how they do it, where their claim is showing up in other language that we talk about here. How does that golden thread of what they want us to get tie together in their work? How did they set it up in their, and what does that mean? Mostly, what does it mean to me? So I started, and then this table is good for analysis of their writing. So one of the things I was struck by today was that their way their introduction started was really strong. One of them started with the purpose and goals of their work, and the other one started with the gap in the literature, which both could be construed as being the problem they're solving. But the way they wrote it was very different. And it made me realize that having a strong start and is key to the success. And that's what I put in the first one. So as I said, I'm just working this through, but I will flesh this out so that I can give it to someone else as I write. It'll be another tool that I use to keep circling around, making sure that I'm on target and not just wasting a lot of writing time going down rabbit hole. Okay, so that's all I have to say today. I even stayed within my 15 minutes. Well, I'll come to the Woo Claps. I see there's several, and I just want to point out a couple of things that are also ongoing this month. So for January, you will all be getting or should be getting, and if you don't get it, you might want to write Sonia, let me put that in, at drlnet.com. If you don't get a newsletter tomorrow. And the newsletter has a number of things that you can do this January to start the year well. But we also have, every Monday, there will be a 15 minutes. Next Monday, I will look at rigor. Now, it's real hard to do rigor in 15 minutes, but I will. It'll be an interesting conversation that all of us need to keep in mind. And then a couple more this month. And then on Tuesdays, change of time here at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're in the U.S., you can go from there on time zones. We have a What Next group, and we moved it to 3 because we have an active group, and one of the participants couldn't come at 5 because of work commitment this month. So what is it? It's a number of people, 4 or 5 usually come, and we're discussing what we want to do next. A couple of people want to move out of the country they're in. How does their degree get them to do that? They're looking at what kind of jobs are available in the places they want to move. I'm looking at universities in Singapore, what they're like culturally, and what I'm hoping to have by the end of the month a way to craft building a relationship there, and etc. So it's a good place to talk about where you are and where you want to be, the distance in between, and how to get in between. And people are just very good about helping each other. And then we go away, we have homework, we come back and we've done the homework and we go the next step. It's based on a mastermind group. Wednesdays is much simpler. It's just sign in to the synchronous writing hour and turn off your microphone, start to write for an hour, and then at the end we talk about how it went if you're interested in joining in. So that's what goes on here this month.